Hello, and welcome to today's webinar on the Professional Fundraising Program at Boston University. During today's presentation, we will cover the Professional Fundraising Program, including the curriculum areas, instructors, and how to register. We will have time at the end for questions and answers. It is my pleasure to introduce John Shafrath, Program Director of the Professional Fundraising Program. John was a student himself and brings a unique perspective to the program as well as to today's presentation. After completing the program in 2007, John has served as lead instructor for over 5 years. He is a Senior Development Officer at Harvard Business School. In addition, John is an accomplished speaker and expert in technology-enabled fundraising, capital campaigns, and event management and prospect research. John, thank you so much for joining today. I'll pass it over to you to review the program.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, everyone, for joining, and for those listening later. It's great to have you here and interested in the field of philanthropy. It's really an important part of what makes the world go round. For example, last year, $390 billion was given to organizations around the world, or actually here in the USA, from the Giving USA stats. And I think that if you're here because you're at an organization that you want to help bring resources to deliver on their mission or help in any way, I think that is a wonderful thing that you're doing, and really hope to be able to share with you a bit about what this program is like and how it can be helpful to you in your pursuit in the philanthropy field. I wanted to take a moment, as Sarah mentioned, I went through the course myself, but I thought you might enjoy or appreciate hearing from a student directly who had a little bit more recent experience. So in the last session over the summer, one of our students, Sandy, who was going to try to call in today, unfortunately schedules didn't work, but she shared a little bit of a background on what this course has done for her. She says, "I felt the program provided a broad overview of fundraising and specific skills that would give me the credentials to be considered for a fundraising position. In fact, I have an interview this Friday at the University of Wyoming with their foundation in a fundraising capacity. I believe I'm being considered because of the certificate I earned from Boston University. The program was economical and well worth the money. In this job market, we must continue learning in order to stay relevant. Thank you for the invitation. Sorry I couldn't attend this time." So just that's a little bit of what the impact of this program can be for you. Turning to the overview and sort of what you can expect. It's a 12-week program, all online and asynchronous. So that means that you can do this from anywhere and with people from around the world, which is wonderful. You can also log on at any time. You may see me sometimes there late at night, which is my preferred time, but people are able to do it at any time during the day, and we follow the content through the 12 weeks in different modules. So you actually stay as a cohort, and you are instructor-led throughout that. We'll touch on that in a little bit. Myself, along with 2 other colleagues, and maybe a couple more by the time January comes along, teach the course and are the facilitators and the graders as well. So you get great interaction with some of us who've been in the field for a very long time, doing a lot of different things. And, you know, all of us are practitioners, so we really share from an experience of doing in the field. And so we look to help you build those practical skills. This isn't just a theory course. And throughout, you know, whether your background is at a small organization, a large organization, educational, social services, health, arts, or anything, you know, really any area, we will address that and be facilitating conversations around that. As you've probably seen in the materials, there are continuing education points through CFRE, which qualifies for you on the education side to be able to sit for the CFRE, and you do get a certificate in professional fundraising out of this course. Next slide, please. So who is this a good course for? There's sort of 4 different groups that I look at, and I've seen, you know, in my 5 years teaching, really get a lot out and excel through this course. One group is the career changers, the folks who've been maybe pursuing another path, either professionally or personally, and looking to get into the field of fundraising. This is a great course to help you understand what different job opportunities there might be in the field, as well as develop sort of practical skills, an overview of what's going on, and really it's sort of a credential in order to be able to go into a job, both confident that you have the knowledge and skills, but also show a commitment to the field and an interest in pursuing that job in a professional way. Also look to, and this is where I was when I took the course, for folks looking to rise in their organization, develop themselves in the, on a fundraising career path. It's a great way to expand your understanding of what goes on in all parts of the fundraising shop, advance your knowledge, and get a sense of those next steps, how to sort of move forward, and the things that you might not get in your day-to-day heads-down job. I found that to be incredibly helpful to me personally, and has allowed me to have some success in moving up in my day job over at the Harvard Business School. We also have a great group of sort of executive level, executive director level, or director level specifically for fundraising in an organization, people who've maybe moved up with a single area, so, you know, maybe in major gifts or in alumni relations, and have a specific job function that they've excelled at but don't have a full understanding of the breadth of fundraising. And this course can be great in providing that overview, help with the strategic planning, help you develop the questions you would be needing to ask of your team or your volunteers so that you can help maximize philanthropy for your organization. And finally, and this has been an increasing cohort in this course, is volunteers and board members. So many folks come to us from around the country, around the world, who are either board members at larger nonprofits looking to figure out how to help strategic planning for fundraising and major gifts, all, you know, different parts of the organization. Or sometimes there's, you know, plenty of organizations, a lot of organizations that are purely volunteer-led. And so helping those volunteers who may not be working with paid professional fundraisers figure out a way to move forward their organization and help fundraise and develop a program there. Next slide, please. So a little bit around the course. So throughout the course, as I mentioned, there are 12 modules. We'll look into those. There's also a bit of a simulation throughout. We have a university that we use as an example, that as you go through the assignments in each module, you can apply those assignments to this university. You can also work, if you're currently at an organization and you want to apply them to your own organization, we encourage that too. But this is a great way of sort of building practical skills as you're going through, because every assignment is really around developing sort of a new skill. It's also a platform that through our facilitated discussions, you will get to know your peers, and it's a great opportunity for networking with each other, as well as with the faculty, the instructors, and facilitators in the program. All of us I'm always surprised at the level of engagement through this platform. So that's a great opportunity, and that can be helpful both in continuing after the course, as well as job search and those different pieces as well. And then in addition to that, you will get some overview in theory, so you'll sort of understand sort of what the whole organization of fundraising looks like. So starting with the beginning, we'll start with an overview. We'll look at sort of where fundraising philanthropy has come, where it's going. We'll look at some trends, sort of bring you up to speed on some of the knowledge and thinking how you might think about fundraising generally, how you might have these conversations with your organization or your board, sort of at a strategic level. Then we'll jump right into the beginning of sort of the skill development as we think through prospect research, how you find the individuals, corporations, foundations that will be supportive of your organization. This is an area where many don't have other experience or exposure to, and have found it to be potentially interesting career path as well. From there, we'll go through annual giving. Most of you have probably received in the mail or by email the annual appeal from some organization that you care about or that you just got you on your list. But we'll talk about the strategies for developing an annual giving program and how to be most effective in getting those important unrestricted resources for your organization's operations. We'll then move on to technology-enabled fundraising, and we'll look at sort of the different tools that one can use. We'll apply them to an organization that you know. We'll look through websites and social media, email communication, both the tools individually, but also how you integrate them to be to sort of maximize the communication for your organization, sometimes around awareness, and that leading them to fundraising. Next slide, please. We'll then continue our journey, so from annual funds, sort of the smaller gift side, to major gifts. This is sort of my area of expertise, so have enjoyed weighing in on this, sharing the different ways in which you take one of these prospects that you found to cultivate the relationship and ultimately make the ask. This is a lot of what people typically think about when they think about fundraising for an organization. It can be critically important to smaller organizations and larger organizations. The best practices that you can learn in both of those settings are the same. We just talked through how you might have set the expectations around your donors differently when you're working at a smaller organization, maybe with a smaller budget, and maybe prospects who have slightly less capacity. So it's very applicable to the different types of organizations that you might work with. We'll then get even sort of more into the detail as we talk about plan giving, a way for individuals to maximize their philanthropy through different gift, sort of tax-efficient gift vehicles or through their estate. And while an individual on the giving side is thinking about that, it's important for the fundraising professional to have a sense of the ins and outs of what might be available to an individual philanthropy officer and how you can have some of these conversations. We'll also talk through some of the really low barriers to entry gifts that can be encouraged, that can have a really significant impact on an organization. From there, we'll talk, we've been talking about the individuals who make up the fundraising world for our organization. We'll then spend some time talking about corporations and foundations. And while we won't go sort of into the details of all of grant writing, which is a very important specific skill, we will talk through how to identify corporations and foundations for support, how to build the connection between them and your organization, and sort of make the case in this different way than with an individual for their support and for their openness to receiving your proposal for their support. We'll then move on to capital campaigns. So in this day and age, most organizations are going from one capital campaign to another. Why is that? In this section, we'll talk about really what it means to be in a capital campaign, how that is different from sort of steady state fundraising for your organization, and why organizations go into them. There's lots of different benefits, as well as some challenges which you should be aware of at the outset. Next slide, please. From there, we'll go sort of behind the scenes a little bit. We'll talk about support services. So these are the sometimes unsung heroes, but often really interesting folks in your organization, and a great sort of entry point, again, into the fundraising field. The people who work on processing the gifts, the people who work on special events. So a lot of organizations rely on special events as key fundraisers for them. The people who work on reporting on the gifts and thanking the donors in a comprehensive way. These are all critical functions of fundraising, and often one that you wouldn't be able to have an insight into just being sort of a part of an organization as a volunteer or donor. So can really lift up the hood and learn a little bit more there. We'll then move on to volunteer leadership. Many of you, I'm sure, are volunteers at organizations in one way or the other. It's a critical lifeblood that allows even the largest organizations to be successful. How you use volunteer time, how you recognize volunteers, the way in which you rely on them for strategy and prospect development are all critical factors of how you would engage with volunteer leadership, and we'll work through that and talk through some of those roles. And finally, we'll wrap up the course in talking about management and accountability. So how you might manage your fundraising organization, how you might, going into a new role, take sort of the first 60 days, who you'd be talking to, what the conversations are that you would have. We'll go through a little bit around the ethics and sort of some of the things that come up when you're working with people who are giving of money and financial resources in an organization that has a specific mission that they're trying to accomplish. Next slide, please. So as I talked about and alluded to a little bit, we do have a teaching team that you'll get to know throughout the 12 weeks. You can sort of see a little bit on background here. Kelly has an extensive background in the health field in fundraising and has done numerous things, also some in the social service sector, and has deep experience in the American Cancer Society. Myself, I've been in higher ed, mostly in business school fundraising, which I've been doing for quite some time, as well as gotten exposures through some of my other work to other smaller schools as well. And then our colleague, Frank, who also has experience in the higher ed space, but comes at it more from a communication standpoint, whereas I come from it more from a sort of frontline fundraising, major gifts, playing gifts, and annual fund. So as a threesome, we cover a lot of different areas, and we continue on an ongoing basis to bring in new instructors and facilitators to help with this course and find relation points with the students. Next slide, please. Great. Finally, sort of looking at the course logistics. As I mentioned, this is online and asynchronous. You will be expected to follow us through, so it is instructor-led through each module. We have dates when assignments and quizzes are due within those periods, and expectations of grading by module and then by the overall course. So it's self-paced within that, but not sort of the entire course. We call that sort of gated content. We expect you to be online every day, checking announcements, participating in discussions. That's a key piece of learning through this course, is what you learn from each other and from the instructors. So active learning in that front is important. And then you also will have an assignment for each module, a written assignment, typically about 2 to 3 pages, as well as a sort of quick quiz and assessment on sort of understanding the content. Each module is very rich in content that you are able to go through at your own pace within that module. And we're trying to make sure that not only are you sort of reading and hopefully letting it sink in that way, but you're being able to demonstrate that knowledge as well. You'll have full access to your instructors and facilitators on the discussion board by internal message, and we're happy to be helpful and talk things through both in this course as well as other fundraising related, career related things that might be coming up for you. A little bit on the logistics of the platform. We're on Blackboard and all that, but you can learn that a little bit more once you enroll. I think I'm going to turn it back to talk about the upcoming program, or the program schedule in this session.
Thank you, John, for the valuable review of the Professional Fundraising Program. I'm now going to ask Carrie, the head of our enrollment team, to discuss the program schedule and registration process. So thank you so much, Carrie. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, John. Hello, everyone. I wanted to let you know that the BU Online Certificate in Professional Fundraising is offered 3 times each year, every January, every May, and every September. Our upcoming session starts this January the 16th, and we do have an enrollment deadline of December 15th for the upcoming January session. Oh, and I guess I got ahead of myself. So there's our start date. Our Next session starts again on January the 16th. The enrollment deadline is December 15th. The tuition for this course is $2,495. You can register directly on our website, or you can contact us over the telephone for enrollment. If you are considering this January session, the seating is limited. Therefore, I would recommend registering sooner rather than later. If you do have any questions that are not answered in our upcoming Q&A session, please feel free. You can reach out to any member of the enrollment team to assist you. You can contact us via email. We have the email up on the slide right now, via phone, or if you prefer, you can go directly on our website, and we do offer live chat. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Carrie, and thank you, John, for the valuable information pertaining to the professional fundraising program offered here at BU. We will now start our live question and answer session. Just as a reminder, please type your questions in the question box located on the right-hand side of your screen. And we'll let the questions sort of trickle in now. All right, so our first question comes to us here. Does the course prepare me for the CFRE test? John, I will pass that one over to you, please.
Yes, so while not specifically mapped to the CFRE, the content in which we cover and then the hours, the education points you get will set you up both for the requirements as well as the knowledge that you would need to be successful. And we actually spend some time in the wrap-up of the course talking about that with each other and sort of giving people a sense of what to expect on that.
Great, thank you. Our next question is, what are we graded on in this course? John, I'll pass that back to you, please.
Yeah, so your grade is made up of 3 elements. One is the assignment within each module. That's sort of a significant piece of it. The other is a quick quiz that you'll do in each module. That's sort of a slightly lesser piece of it. Our hope is that you're here for the learning sake. And then the last piece, which is significant, is the discussion board forums, both in answering the prompts and questions that we have, but also engaging with each other, asking questions. You get just as many sort of points or credit for the questions that you're asking of your colleagues as you get for sort of the initial content that you're responding to. And again, that can all be done at your own time. So these aren't, it's not like you have to log in at some specific time. This shouldn't be, hopefully that's not a barrier to folks interested in the course.
Great, thank you. Our next question, do you offer payment plans? And I will shoot that over to Carrie, please.
Thank you. We do offer payment plans. If you enroll during the month of November for the January session, it will be a split payment where you would pay half the tuition in November and the remaining half in December. If you are looking for a longer payment plan, I would need to suggest that you consider our May session, where if you enroll during the month of November, this month, for the upcoming May session, there would be a 6-month payment plan. All the payment plans are interest-free, so you would simply take the amount of the tuition and divide by the number of payments. The payment plans are offered on the website in the shopping cart. If you do run into any difficulties, please feel free to call us, as we would always be happy to process the registration for you over the phone to ensure that the payment plan is in there.
Thank you, Carrie. John, I believe this one I will pass to you. What are the networking opportunities for jobs through this program?
Yeah, so I think the best opportunities are through the relationships that you build with your peers. The discussion forum allows for really robust interaction, and we typically will see people right from the get-go getting together both virtually and in person. The group is from around the country and around the world, but there tends to be pockets of people in different metropolitan areas. The other thing is we do keep our eyes and ears open around things that come our way as instructors, job opportunities and whatnot, and always happy to share those with students to pursue. So it is a robust network that we are getting into.
Wonderful, thank you. John, this one is probably more pertaining to you as well. How does the course align itself to a career-building path in fundraising and donor relationships with the United Nations?
I would say that what you're learning in this course is applicable to a number of different fields within the nonprofit area. So the UN, I would say, fits in there for sure. And this is an overview course, so you are touching on all the different parts of the fundraising and developing those skills, as we've talked about, that would then allow you to be sort of ready and have the skill set for a job in the UN in that way.
Great answer, thank you. Our next question I will pass to Carrie. The question is, I work full-time. What is the time commitment for this course?
Thank you, Sarah. Again, this is a 12-week online program. In order for students to be successful in the course, the approximate time commitment is 7 to 10 hours per week.
Great, thank you, Carrie. Our next question is, what is the relationship like with the other online students? John, I'll pass that to you, please.
Sure. So a lot of the early conversation in the course as we do introductions is both sharing people's professional and personal backgrounds, so getting to know people that way. And then as you go through the course, because it's the same cohort sort of working through these different challenges, you get to know people's personalities, you get to know sort of the types of questions that peers might have that you might not have thought about, but are things that you would like to know more about, and vice versa. It is definitely a learning network where each of you builds off of the other's comments and sort of get to a better understanding of the subject matter because you do it together.
All right, wonderful, thank you. There's one other question here. We have, does the course produce a portfolio of work that a student could use as examples of fundraising experience and knowledge? John, please, I'll pass that to you.
Yes, so that is one of our goals. So there are a number of things. For example, in the annual giving module, we actually ask you to create a high-end annual giving society, which is something that most organizations are working on either as we speak or they've had one that they're working to improve. And we have had students take that piece along with others and sort of talk about that as sort of specific experience that they've had. And they're, again, having a simulated organization that you can use as well. There can be some consistency in your work too, if that's of interest.
Great, thank you, John. All right, so just as a reminder, we'll have questions submitted in the question box on the right-hand side of your screen here. I'm just waiting for another question. So we have another question that's come in. Are the 84 continuing education points you earned from the program enough to sit for the CFRE exam? John?
Yes, I believe they are for the education points. Yep.
Great, thank you. It looks like that's all the questions we have coming in for today. So at this time, we will end the live question and answer session. So I'd like to thank our presenters today, John, and thank you, Carrie. And thank you to all of you who have joined us today. And should you have any questions, any follow-up questions, please do not hesitate to contact us via email, phone, or live chat on the website. The contact information can be seen on the screen here. Thank you all again, and we will be sending a follow-up recording to this webinar for your reference within the next 2 days. Thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of the day.